could watch around the world. I've had people from India, whoever's in my group can actually get on and see. It's sort of like, I guess, Facebook of the future. So, see, you're supposed to be here. There's your appointment.
I see that.
So we're live, and it's also recording on YouTube. And it sounds like it's hard. I changed my mic out. It sounds like I'm a little bit distorted, but I'm going to just look down here. You sound perfect, and I'm just getting it back fed. So I'm going to pull mine down just a little bit because I can always bring it up. I am hitting highs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm doing a test. Lynn, while we're testing here, why don't you just talk and tell us a little bit about yourself or pre-show?
My name is Lynne Simons, and I'm an attorney in Reno, Nevada, and I'm a candidate for District Court Judge, Department 6.
Okay, that's good. And we're going to go with the way it is. No, I'm still hitting highs. That's interesting. Mine came up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There, it's better. It's better to be low than high than hit distort. So I can always bring it up when we do called mastery. So Lynn, one more voice check.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And then just talk for a second.
My name is Lynne Simons, and I'm a candidate for District Court Judge, Department 6 in Washoe County.
Okay, one more time. District Court Judge 6. Sorry about this out there, but this is behind the scenes. People get to see. This is just so people can see how it's recorded. So we're going to start the presentation right now. Actually, I did start it, but I'm going to restart. Okay, we are recording, and I'm still peeking out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I knew you're good because you're balanced with me.
Thank you.
So, Lynn, welcome to Timelines of Success.
Thank you so much, Bill.
You are the first candidate of the season that we have in the office, but that's not why you're here. You're really here for your timeline, so I got excited for a second.
Oh, thanks.
It's all, you're a celebrity in town right now. So now you have to tell us how you got to where you are. What are you actually doing right now?
Well, currently I am a candidate for Washoe County District Court Judge in Department 6. And I'm an attorney at Woodburn and Wedge, and I'm a mom and a wife. I have 4 kids, and it is probably the experience of all of those items that have led me to run for Department 6.
Very good. I know you have, I don't know how you do it, but you've done it, and you're a professional. You're working as an attorney. You have a family. Your husband's also a professional. He's an attorney.
Correct.
And you must be busy in your household.
Very busy.
You have to be very organized.
Correct.
And my first question, I would say, how much sleep do you get?
Not enough, but I work towards it because I think it's important.
Yeah, we've been doing research on sleep. So
well, I think we all function with more sleep, but we also have our mind moving at night.
Yeah, and you, as a candidate right now, I can tell from my experience that being a candidate, if you don't have some extra motivation, you're not a very good candidate. There's just natural endorphins or whatever it might be that keep you going because you're doing it for a reason.
You have to have a lot of energy. It's a marathon. We're just under 60 days, and this is when you have to keep yourself going. You reach deep inside, and you have the energy to meet the people that you want to work for.
Okay. So stepping back in your career, how did you get to where you are today? If someone wants to become an attorney and then someday run for judge and become a judge, what would be the path for them?
I think you have to study hard. You know, I grew up with a very solid work ethic and study habits, and I worked for my mom's small company when I was young and learned how to be responsible for different parts of a business. So you have commitment. I loved school. I went to Washoe County Schools, Reno High School, and I graduated when I was 17 and left for Stanford. And I received a degree in sociology, organizational behavior, and took a lot of psychology classes.
So were you a freshman at Stanford at 17?
Yes.
That must have been an interesting experience.
It was. One time I got a ticket on my bike for not having a light, and they had to send the ticket to my parents.
That's funny. Did you get it on campus?
Yes. Yes. The battery on my light burned out.
Oh, that's great. It's a beautiful campus. Did you live on campus?
It's gorgeous. I lived in Robley Hall, which is actually the same dorm that my grandmother lived in the 1920s.
Wow. So your grandmother went to school in Stanford.
She did.
Wow. 1920s. My Pomona is where my grandmother went to school in about the same time, I'm guessing. Maybe, yeah, I would guess around that time.
Yep.
That's unusual for women to go to school back then, especially at Stanford. When did Stanford bring in women? Because it started out as all male, I think.
No, pretty early they brought in women.
Because there was a female school in the 1800s
correct.
across the bay.
Correct. Pretty early they did. My great-grandmother went to NYU.
Wow, that's very unusual. No, but the reason why I track that is because my grandmother, Pomona, And I know the story and the barriers that women had to go through
Absolutely.
prior to World War II. I think after World War II, the glass ceiling started to break a little bit.
Well, I think there's a lot of barriers women face.
Right, and they
in
still
careers.
do inherently because you have a family.
Correct.
I mean, sometimes you have a stay-home dad, but it's a tough combination.
It's a balance.
It's a balance. So once you got through school and you went to law school,
Yes.
what happened after that?
I left Pepperdine and moved back to Reno, which I love dearly. And I went, in the summers I had worked at Woodburn and Wedge as a law clerk. And when I came back, I was a law clerk bailiff for Judge Schuweiler in this very court in a different department. And I worked there for a year, and the interesting part of that is, as a bailiff, we were trained, where now you would have a deputy. We were trained. I carried a Smith & Wesson 38, shot at silhouettes is how I learned. And we sat in the courtroom for a year watching every proceeding. So you had to get your work, your research done outside of those court hours. The benefit was you watch the judge do the very job I'm seeking.
So you're a deputy, so you're sworn.
I was not a deputy,
Oh, you were,
but I was a bailiff,
okay.
And I had to be certified by Washoe County Sheriff's
So
Department.
you had to carry. Okay.
Yes.
Everything is different. I grew up in California, and I just know California laws and procedures better than Nevada. Though we're very close, we're different.
Well, court security became a big issue, and no longer are the law clerks the deputies.
No, okay, I see. So after you were a deputy, you went into practice?
After you
were a bailiff, you went into practice. By the way, I'll take that out. After you were a bailiff, you went into practice?
Correct. I passed the bar in Nevada and California when I was a law clerk for the court, and then I went to Woodburn and Wedge, which is one of the oldest firms in Nevada, and I became the youngest partner there and second woman. I trained with remarkable attorneys, and I was a litigator in Nevada and California. I was single at the time, so I really had the benefit of traveling to a lot of different courts on both the state and federal level, but mostly I was able to be a legal judge and learn from these phenomenal lawyers that I appeared with on cases, and very quickly, because different from California large firms, I was able to handle, I did a deposition within 1 week of starting at the firm, where in California I would have not had the opportunity to do that at many firms. And I commenced in a practice of litigation in Nevada and California. And the whole time I also developed a probate practice because Judge Schuweiler had taught that to me, and handled some fascinating cases. I think the thing that drives me is complex fact and legal cases. If there's a complexity, whether it's number of people, number of claims, the facts, or how the law applies, that's the thing that really, really keeps me going. I was fortunate enough to become a partner, and I worked on a case. We commonly call it the tank farm case, but it has to do with the Sparks Marina. The settlement is what resulted in the marina. It was the Helms Pit. I represented Shell Oil. My husband represented Barry Hinckley, and we met each other on that case, and when it wound down, he asked me to go to lunch, and we did.
That's nice. Nice story.
So go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, and then you had a family. You eventually started
Correct.
a family. So you really started your profession, and you.
Right. I did my career path, my life path, my timeline.
Right.
A little bit different than a lot of other women. I had really unique opportunities as a single woman, and met my husband later. I met him, and we got married when I was 38. Our anniversary is actually tomorrow, our 14th anniversary.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And we started having kids very fast. And I continued to work for the firm. And then because I had done this path of also keeping up probate, I was trying a case in San Francisco that blended into a very hotly contested litigation. And so I began to specialize in probate and trust litigation because the forward action and responsive actions in those type of cases are more predictable. And I was recruited to the Second Judicial District Court by now Justice Hardesty, and I served as the probate master and trust master for Washoe County, a job that I dearly loved, had my second daughter while I was there, and then did somewhat of a crazy thing when I had a job that I loved. I had great reviews from the bar and the judges. We made a decision I wanted to have another baby, and I left the court, and I had twins.
Oh, twins. I saw the boys.
Yes.
Yeah, I saw that's kind of nice. 4.
So 2 and 2.
Yeah, we have 3. Ironically, my wife has run a brokerage for a long time, and in California, and now in Nevada she's licensed. And some of her best years is when she was pregnant. Hard to explain that. And she had about 8 people in her brokerage. But she was able to continue on, and she got very busy.
Well, I think you have this deep sense of strength. In addition, I think sometimes when you have kids, certainly this was for me, and maybe perhaps not everyone, but it gives you a certain balance to your life. About when I was younger, I had the ability to work a lot of hours, and I would take my dog back at night. With a family, you don't do that. You know, you're home with your family.
Right.
We are a family that likes to have dinner together for our cohesiveness, and it helps with all of our activities and we do during the day.
I've never asked or looked at that skill set towards successful families, but I bet that's one of the clues if you have dinner together or you try to have dinner together,
Absolutely.
do things together. What time do you eat?
Not always as early as we want because of all the activities.
We eat late too because we have gymnastics till 7 o'clock.
Exactly. We're usually more around 7 o'clock after soccer.
It's at 7:30. You have soccer.
Yes.
And that's busy too.
Yes.
So that's where you are today, and you're running for office. That's a pretty good timeline. That was a very well laid out timeline in a timely manner. But I do have one question to ask. Going back in your timeline, when you're in high school, how big was Reno? What was the population?
Reno was about 100,000, and I would say perhaps during high school grew to about 125. Didn't have its huge growth.
When did the biggest growth occur here?
The biggest growth, I would say, occurred, let's say, just before 2000.
2000, okay.
Before that.
Right before that, 98, first quarter 98, actually the economy turned up.
Right.
We had a lot of growth here. Interesting town. It hasn't grown as explosively as Modesto. And I got some back into that area. And Modesto went from 50,000 to 230,000 because of the commuters from the Bay Area. It grew very fast. So that's interesting. But Reno has grown, but it's been more of a steady, solid growth.
It has. I think when the tax laws were favorable here, and it probably, one of the things that I like to look at life as in some ways is systems and how do things work together. And even in pursuing this judicial position, I look at it, if our community works in this way, how are the things that led to the growth? It's probably multiple things. The easy ability to get here, the technology that allows telecommuting, the movement with families with all sorts of technology, but also people examining quality of life. And you just can't get a better place. I'm biased, but you can't get a better place in Reno, Nevada.
No, I am.
And Sparks and all of Washoe County, and I'm a big lover of Lake Tahoe.
I'm fifth generation Californian, and this is my first choice by far to live. Since I was a little kid, when I come up and ski,
absolutely.
I want to live here.
I mean, I think that we all know that Tahoe is just our, sapphire, and it draws us back, and we're lucky to be here, and we're close enough to the Bay Area.
And I live up where you live. We live sort of up the valley, not far from Truckee, and Truckee's beautiful too. You go up into Truckee, and then the backside of also that whole area for camping, hiking.
Really easy access.
And I hike a lot too. I hike with my family. And there's a lot to do, and there's a lot of activities here because we get a lot of tourists that come in. The city doubles. One small fact is I realize we have about 3 police officers per 1,000. I've been tracking that for a long time because I was in a city. We used to have 1.6 and we shot for 1.8. So we get extra police officers here, I assume from some kind of transit occupancy tax or something of that nature. I'm guessing.
I don't know how it's funded, but it is very negotiated.
Yeah, but it's a lot of money to have the extra officers.
Yes.
So one last thing. When you're elected, should you get elected, tell us exactly what you're going to do as a judge. What are some of your duties?
Well, certainly listening and presiding over all the cases that come before you. And those cases in this court vary. This court is the general jurisdiction court, so it does not have primary responsibility, for instance, for family cases or guardianships, but it does really for everything else, whether it's civil or criminal, above a certain jurisdictional monetary rate. Also has probate and trusts, which is what I was the master on. And those areas of law break down in criminal law will be arraignments, trials, sentencing, all the pretrial work, etc. Same with civil cases. Now, civil cases, of course, you have discovery disputes, which are primarily handled by a master, but you do have a series of motion work, motions for summary judgment, motions in limine, and in addition, which is one of the things I did as a master, which I dearly love and I do now in private practice, is mediations. A large part of the process of litigation is actually conducting settlement conferences, and that's one skill that I hope that I can bring to this court.
That's good, and I'm a big believer in mediation and settlement. And anything you do, reduce the cost for all parties.
Well, and the other thing that I learned as a master, and this, I just did a mediation the other day that was very hard fought last week. And the reality is that somebody wants to tell the nuances of their case without necessarily all of the evidentiary principles and laws that are applied in the courtroom. They want to talk about the merits quicker than sometimes the system, for good reason, allows it. And mediation is one of those items that you can, if the parties agree, you can mediate the case that's before you, or mediate a case. In the court side, it's called settlement conferences. When you are not under court, it's not a judge doing it, it would be called a mediation.
Right, before, or arbitration prior to mediation.
Correct.
Before the judge recommends or directs mediation.
And arbitrations used to be very popular, and I did many down in Las Vegas, actually. But again, it created a body of rules that sometimes may reduce the cost, but not all the way. And that is why that opportunity, one of the things I've been so rewarded with is how thoughtful different parties are, and how they come up with a solution to their case as a transaction. And I always tell the parties that, you know, I expect you to negotiate in good faith. I expect you to be honest and forthright and tell me what you want to keep confidential, but also not to roll over and play dead. Because I think you have, every case is important, small or big.
Right. Now, that's another, someday maybe you'll come back as one of our, what we do, this is your timeline, but then I try to bring back once a week, I bring somebody to go into a specific area or information. And a lot of people listen to this are entrepreneurs, they're baby boomers, and they're becoming entrepreneurs. Maybe they've had a career, now they're starting a business. And they may not be familiar with arbitration, mediation, things of that nature, just because they didn't have to deal with it. But the more you get into business, as you know, the more opportunity you have for some type of mediation, arbitration.
A dispute.
Yeah, in California, I had to deal with Title 24 and handicap access, which I follow. There are different laws within California than there are the federal laws. So.
Correct.
And California changes their laws from time to time, too. I don't know if you're familiar with those areas.
Minimally, I did quite a bit of work for Step 2, a nonprofit in town, and that was one of the issues when we were trying to purchase a property for them. And it became, actually, before the Planning Commission and City Council, quite an argument over whether or not persons with addictions, drug and alcohol, were considered disabled. And at that time, there was a body of law that was issued, and I argued it before our City Council, actually.
Wow. No, that'd be interesting. But anyway, those are some of the things that it's good for people to understand.
Absolutely.
As they get into business and what they have to deal with. And then the other thing, too, is I'm going to mention passing the bar in both states. That's congratulations. I don't know how many people do that.
Oh, thank you.
But my wife is a broker in both states, and she's got to constantly keep the laws and requirements in her head straight. And a lot of people, even though we're right next to each other and we're Western states, we are very different.
That's very true, and California tends to, because their legislature meets more often, tends to have a little bit more a more detailed body of law.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that is foremost is also on the ballot this year is question 1, and that is whether or not Nevada needs an appellate court. And that's one of the other differences between California and Nevada. Because Nevada goes from this court that I would serve if a party disagrees with your ruling or for some reason feels that the court has made a mistake, they can appeal it to the Supreme Court here. The reality is, without an intermediate court, that the Supreme Court the heaviest case law in the
So
country.
it takes a long time to get to.
So the proposal is a push-down, a modified push-down, which allows them to hear cases that will make more case law consistent with, for instance, California has a much more wide body of case law.
Okay. Well, we have to drive on now. We only have about 12 minutes left.
Oh, well, thank you.
11
okay.
and 12, so thank you. I'll probably take out that little discussion there. We only have 11 minutes left. So bottom line up front questions. I always actually ask these, and the reason why is because of trying to help other people get into technology, primarily baby boomers, since I didn't have an iTunes account until this year. But what type of computer do you use?
I use a PC. I use a laptop because it's consistent with what my firm uses. However, we've just integrated Mac in our home because our daughter wanted it for high school.
Right, and she's going down to the store here, probably doing some training and.
Absolutely, but they also pick it up pretty naturally.
Now, what type of smartphone do you have?
I have an iPhone.
Yeah, most people, iPhone is probably, to me, the best phone for people to get if they're going to go to a smartphone. Because, again, you have the Apple Store to help you out with that phone. And you have your carrier also.
Correct.
So what is your favorite technology?
My favorite technology? Do you mean in software applications?
Any kind of technology you like. I know technology has affected law, the practice of law.
Absolutely. And the practice of law would be all the research that's available. In addition, Google, the search engines. I think on a practical level, it took me a long time to get out of WordPerfect, but I'm on Word.
That's funny. WordPerfect was like the old version.
Correct. Just today I was reading about, and the name is slipping my mind, but a new software that is supposed to be Excel Plus to have a lot more business applications. So I would have to say probably just the search engines and the relatively quick way that you can use Westlaw or Lexis for legal research.
Right. I know a few researchers, and they've talked to me about how much things have changed. And they're specialized in actually doing the searches, the new type of searches. Correct. I can imagine what it must have been like in the old days, looking at books and references, and how you ever found information. I know
it took a lot of hours.
There were services you had to hire. They're really big firms, I would assume.
Those were usually the first-year associates.
Yeah,
law clerks.
A lot of associates. They probably burn them out the first year, so I don't want to do this.
You learn.
So driving on, what is your favorite quote?
Integrity is doing the right thing when no one is looking, by C.S. Lewis.
Very good, very good. That's a perfect quote. And what is your favorite book and author? What books do you like to read?
I am a voracious reader. I do most of it now, listening in the car. I download it from my phone. But my favorite book of all time is Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand.
Very good. I like what you just said. You listen in the car. So are you doing it off your iPhone?
I do both. I have some discs. I do it off my iPhone. I also do a substantial amount of my CLE when I'm driving. After you drop the kids off and have the morning conversations and on your way to work.
You can record
I listen to 15, 20 minutes.
Wow. Very good. That's very good. Good thing to do. I know I have books online, and that's one way I can get through books faster. And sometimes I'll have my Kindle read to me if I'm really tired.
Yeah.
So, that's sort of the end of the bottom line of the front question. We sort of changed things around a little bit in this system. You're getting the second interview format that we're using today. So tying it all together, what do you do? So tying it all together, that was me that flubbed that one. So when tying it all together, what do you enjoy doing on your time off?
My time off, I love spending time with my kids. And I love being at home with them. We have a home now that we can do a lot of activities in the yard. And I love DIY projects, things that you roll up your sleeves, figure out how to do them, working in the yard. I'm an animal lover.
I was going to say you have a couple of dogs.
I do. We do.
What type of dogs?
We now have, and I'm kind of known in the community as our parents for raising Labradors.
Right, we love labs.
And when our older one passed, my daughter wanted a dog, and we rescued one. And she's a Chihuahua pug, and she's a darling dog, but has taken a lot of work due to some abuse. Right. And then we now have a software-haired dachshund, which my second daughter wanted.
That's
and
nice.
So they're more portable, they're fun. We have 3 cats, a Greek tortoise, and fish.
Now, so you're done with labs for a while?
I want to get a white lab. I've had a chocolate and a black and now I'm going to try a white lab.
We have a 16-week golden lab, male.
Oh dear.
And he's off a ranch, and he's big. He's already huge.
Oh,
He's
but
a big
the
lab.
greatest friend of your life.
I got a quick question. What time do they start breaking through? I heard about 3 years.
I
They
think
stop
2
being
years.
Baby.
2 years, and if they have a job, it works. My dog always went and got the paper for
Right.
me.
Oh, they're really good at
And I think
retrieving.
if you keep them busy,
And I love they don't run away, right?
Right.
I've had a Akita too, and the Akita would like run and have to chase after the Akita.
mhm.
Good dog, loyal dog, but they just
Great
like to
dog.
run.
And interesting, in the small dogs, the one we rescued, we finally took her to a dog tricks class
Mhm.
and gave her tasks to do, and that's really what created the trust, and we
Wow,
moved on.
That's neat. Well, we never rescued a dog. We probably should someday. We're going to get another dog. We were looking at one, a rescue dog, actually. It was a beautiful dog. You don't see many. It was some type of German Shepherd. But it was a beautiful dog.
Oh,
And it was
absolutely.
very, very tame, too.
During the campaign, I've had the opportunity to go to a lot of the Humane Society
Mhm.
events, which have been great, and that folds into another thing that our family likes to do, and that's just kind of engaging in what each other's interests are. My husband is a soccer coach, and so we're all at the soccer games, and my other son likes gymnastics, so we go there, and making whatever activity one of us is interested in a family activity.
Very good. So, in finishing, this is the most important question. For the listener, what is the most important takeaway from your interview? What advice would you give the listener on trying to follow your path? It's someone who wants to become a judge, let's say. They could be at any level. They could be an attorney right now, or they could be a student in law school. What advice would you give them?
To do it with passion.
Passion. So use passion.
On my literature, one of the things that I put was that I have a passion for justice, and that's really why I'm doing this.
How do you decide? It's going to be a follow-up question here, but how do you decide when to run for judge? There's a time and place for everything. So what makes you decide now is the time?
Well, I think that you make that. I've wanted to be a judge my entire life since I was a very little girl, and my papa was a justice of the peace in Douglas County. I think it's in your mind, and you build towards it. I think serving as a master was my first step towards that, confirming that I really wanted to do it. But then you have life events, and there were some judicial applications that I did not pursue. I did pursue the last 2 open ones because I thought it was the right time. And I was in the top 3 of those 2 selection committees, which I was honored to be. But at the same time, I think the universe sort of decided that perhaps this is the right time. And so when this seat was vacated by Judge Adams, I signed up the first day.
Right, because not all seats are vacated. It has to be vacated. I mean, it's good to go for a vacated
Unless you
seat.
run against an incumbent.
It's very difficult to run against any incumbent.
I agree with you.
I know that from being around politics and helping people. It's very
Right.
difficult, unless the incumbent does something that's way out of context.
Right. This is
And most judges don't do that.
Judge Adams he was a very incredible judge. I appeared in front of a lot, and it'll be big shoes to fill if I'm successful, and it would be an honor.
Well, Lynn, a couple things. How can we reach you? How can we find your campaign page?
You can
And
reach my website, which is Lynne Simons for Judge, or you can look me up on Facebook. My phone number is 775-230-4800. My email is lynnsimons@outlook.com, or you can call my law firm, Woodburn & Wedge.
I'll have all that information at Timelines of Success in the bottom, so we'll write all that down.
Thank
Plus,
you.
we'll be mailing this out to different people, too, in the Reno area. Still, most of our listeners are from Reno, believe it or not. Half I can track.
Mhm.
Some Las Vegas, and then it starts breaking off as you go further away.
Well, thank you so much
So-
for this opportunity. It's really been interesting learning about you and going through the process.
Well, thanks, Lynn. I appreciate you coming on. So we're all finished now, but what I'm going to do, they're still listening to us online for behind the scenes. I'm just going to bring up your page before we finish.
Thank
And I scared myself there. See, she got her message. We were talking, there's my daughter. Everywhere out there, my daughter's on the other side said, okay, she's pretty easygoing. She's still, the older daughters. So what we're going to do here is we're going to show your page as we finish. And come on, there you go. So I brought your page up. Where is your page?
It's right in the middle
Right here.
there. Yeah.
There it is. So bring this up on screen so people can see it. We're going to share your page. at the end here. So here's your website, what's that address again? Lynne?
It's LynneSimonsForJudge.com.
Okay. And there's your page. You can donate there. It's a nice-looking page. You look very similar. You're very well branded.
Thank you.
It's a good, important thing. Is that your home?
No, it isn't. It's a home office, but it is
office.
not mine.
Okay.
Mine has a lot of campaign stuff in it.
Very nice. Very good. So that's the web page. That's a good way to finish. And behind the scenes, and I have to run right now. I have to go pick up my daughters, and we have to drive on. This is all done.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Lynne. This is the most important part right here. Is hit